Hello friends, this is Worm, and let's be real with ourselves for just a little bit, because Onslaught has been out for about a week now, and I have been thoroughly enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously Midtown is, I think, everybody's favorite map, but Midtown's a great map. Vostok's a great map. The Moth Yards is kind of okay. It's got a level of difficulty to it. The mode has a level of difficulty to it. Doing the legend version is a pretty big challenge. Doing the even the non-legend version, like if you're not coming in with a loadout that's ready to go, it is challenging. But I think we need to be real with ourselves and talk about the longevity of this game mode, because I think that this Onslaught is in a similar boat as Gambit, and here's my rationale for why. So Onslaught was added. It was a hyped up mode, is a very praised mode, and I think Gambit was kind of the same way. Now, I know that Gambit wasn't a mode that everybody was like drooling over, so to speak. Like, players have been asking for a horde mode, which is what Onslaught is, for a long time now. Like, nobody was really asking for Gambit, but Gambit's so kind of, it's far out there, right? It's a little bit out there in terms of its design. But when Gambit first launched, it was very well received. Like, players had fun doing it, players enjoyed it. It got a ton of interaction. Like, players were super excited. Like, I remember at Guardian, not Guardian Con, at a Bungie event, they had players literally lined up, and the line was like an hour long, so players could play Gambit and see what Gambit was all about. And it was this really hyped mode. And I mean, now look at Gambit. Like, where is it? It is the least played playlist activity, obviously, but I would say it's probably the least played activity just in the game in general. Nobody really likes to, I shouldn't say nobody, there are not a lot of people that really like to go into Gambit and play Gambit for hours and hours and hours on end, versus something like the Crucible, which, yeah, I can sit in the Crucible for hours. I could sit in Strikes for hours. I could sit in, currently I could sit in Onslaught for hours at a time and not be bothered. But as time goes on, is Onslaught still going to hold that position as being a really fun, really awesome game mode, or is it going to kind of die off? Like, is it going to kind of get boring? And so I want to talk about, one of the primary issues that I think affected Gambit, and it will also potentially affect Onslaught, and that is the map selection. Currently, there are only 3 maps to choose from. Just like with Gambit, there's only a couple maps to choose from on Gambit, but with these 3 maps, there's really only one that I've noticed people really liking to play and enjoy, and that's of course Midtown. Like, I see a couple people make posts for like Vostok. I don't see anybody talking about Moth Yards. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that really like the Moth Yards in Onslaught, but you're limiting yourself to 3 maps, and really 2 maps. And if you want to really be picky, you could say just 1 map. Just 1 map is really fun. And yeah, like, we could play on it for hours and hours while we're farming and stuff like that. But at the same time, how long before we get bored of it? How long before it's like, okay, oh great, here's another 50 waves. Like, here's, the same build I've used. Like, remember, what's giving Onslaught its enjoyment currently is because there's so many different builds to try out. We have, Hammer Titan builds, we got Stasis Titan builds, Void Hunter, Solar Warlock, like all these different fun builds. But once those builds have been worn out, once you've played with Stasis Hunter for X amount of Onslaught runs, and once you played with Void Hunter for X amount, like, at what point do you get to where you're like, I mean, I'm not really into it. Like, I don't really know what I want to play. And the honest truth is, even after this first week, I'm kind of at that point. Like, I'm like, okay, like, Onslaught, like, it's fun. I definitely have fun while doing it, but it's also lost its newness. Like, I'm just like, do I really want to sit here for an hour and run through 50 waves with the same build? I don't really know. I don't really think I do. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to longevity. And I know that everybody right now is all over Onslaught because it's a new mode, it's fun, like, people are enjoying it, and I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to see that. But how long will that last? I don't think it's going to last as long as Bungie wants it to. Now, of course, Bungie they can make Onslaught a really fun, long-lasting game mode. All they have to do is add more maps, change up, the artifacts mods and stuff like that, because this season we have solar, stasis, and strand mods. Next season we might have void mods, we might have arc mods that really shift how we play with these these subclasses. But I think that also, like, adding additional maps is so important. right? Because like I said, one of the maps that came with the launch is already like, it's questionable whether people really like to play. And if you like to play on Moth Yards, like please tell me about it in the comments. Tell me why and all that stuff. But me personally, Moth Yards feels way too big. It feels like the enemies are way too spread out. You know, people are fighting over kills because at any given point, two groups of enemies spawn. Left, right, on the left side spawn, or in the middle, there's, the middle left and there's the middle right, or the right side, there's middle right, and it feels too big versus something like Midtown where enemies are constricted into, between 1 and 3 paths. Like it's a lot more fun to play on that. And so when you're limiting yourselves by having 3 maps and one of those maps is already really rough to play on, I don't know how well players are going to keep enjoying this game mode. Now, of course, I think it's also important we talk about the loot. Currently, we get brave weapons from it. I think that Destiny, because it's a looter shooter, it's gonna fall victim to this issue no matter what. And that is, once players are getting all the loot that they want, what's the point? What's the point of doing Onslaught once I get my God roll Recluse and my God roll Falling Guillotine and my God roll blah, 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 whatever. Once I get all those, what's gonna make me want to go back into Onslaught? The answer to that, I don't really know. Like, yeah, it's a horde mode, but at the same time, how many times can you use your void loadout or your stasis loadout until it gets boring? And so that's why I'm concerned with. That's why I'm saying that, Bungie, you need to be constantly updating this playlist. We need to have new modifiers. And I think a cool idea for Onslaught to help its longevity is have a daily rotator that, instead of just your boring old overcharge this, unstoppable, blah blah blah, instead of that, have artifact mods, literally take artifact mods and put them in as modifiers, so that maybe one day we have Hail the Storm, for example. That's one of the seasonal mods from this season, or one of the artifact mods from this season, sorry. Have Hail the Storm be an aspect, so players can go in and play with stasis and really destroy everything with stasis, because stasis is very good. But then the next day it rotates to an arc mod that we've loved in the past. I can't think of any artifact mods we off the top of my head, but having daily rotating modifiers to improve the actual feel of the game, I think would definitely help in the longevity. It would make it feel like, hey, yeah, I've used stasis today, but now stasis is really powerful, so I want to use it again. But then tomorrow, I had fun with stasis yesterday, but tomorrow's void, so now I want to test out void builds and use void, and it would keep players constantly refreshing their builds and their loadouts. Because one of the issues that I have is it's boring to play with the same loadout. It's boring to play on Hunter and have to take in Orpheus Rig Tether every single time I do it, because that's the only, not the only way, but that's one of the easiest ways to get it. And I know that that's players doing that to themselves. If a player opts to use the exact same loadout every single time, that's an issue on their part, because they can change loadouts. But I think that Bungie adding a daily modifier that really changes up how your subclasses work would it would prompt people to try to change it up, play with something different, and that could definitely help the longevity of the mode. I think that also, we talked about loot just a second ago, but I think that also, changing up the loot. We have our Brave arsenal, but maybe every season they add a new weapon in, perhaps, or they rotate weapons out. Like we have weapons that rotate in and out of Trials of Osiris and Vanguard, Crucible, stuff like that. Have a similar thing like that, where weapons will rotate out. So next season, or maybe not next season, but when Final Shape drops, instead of being able to get Recluse, you can't get Recluse anymore, but you can get another weapon instead. And then in a couple of season/episodes, bring back Recluse. Or, and I know that lots of players wouldn't really like this, but you could also limit what drops are in Onslaught per week. You could have almost a more focusable drop scenario. So this week, for example, would drop Recluse and Elsie's Rifle, and the next week it would be Mountaintop and Luna's Howl, and the next week it would be Falling Guillotine and Blast Furnace, something like that. And I know a lot of players, they don't like that, oh, it's time gated, blah blah blah. I mean, there's a lot of time gating in Destiny, if we're being honest. The raid rotator playlist, nobody complains about that, but you can't just go in and do whatever raid you want. I mean, you technically can, but you can't go farm whatever raid you want. But yeah, I don't know, I am concerned with the longevity of it. I want to know how long it's going to be till players get bored of it, after they've got all their god rolls, after they've played all the builds that they can possibly play. How long is that going to be? And of course, we know that Final Shape is just, I think it's actually a little less than 2 months away now, which is very exciting. Maybe that is kind of Bungie's key here. Maybe Onslaught is going to be the big main focus for the next 2 months, which will be a lot of fun, you know, farming, getting all the weapons you want, stuff like that. And then maybe it goes away, which we know that a lot of the stuff in game is going away. You know, we're, the Brave Arsenal with, or the, the unique weapons for the Brave Arsenal are going away. There's been rumors that, you know, things like Super Black, for example, are going to be going away. But like, maybe if Bungie just completely took out the game mode, maybe that would help. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know if I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, because Onslaught is a well-received mode. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's a really fun game mode, but I don't know. I just, again, longevity, I'm questionable about it. Like, it's already been a week and I'm already kind of getting like, it's kind of boring to play, you know, Vostok and Midtown and stuff over and over again. And when I do a legend run, I just end up doing Midtown because that's the most fun map. But with that being said, I want to hear your thoughts on it. Like, do you think it's got a long-lasting potential? And if not, what would you do to fix it? Let me know all that stuff in the comments. Of course, if you like today's video, do me a favor, drop a like, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. And guys, do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, sorry, YouTube thinks you'll like them. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.